wonder if you can tell what sort of guitar I'm playing this morning. Not quite the same as my usual one, is it? Yes, of course. You spotted it already. It's an electric guitar. Yes, it's an electric guitar. Shall we have a look at this one and this one and see how they're the same and see how they're different? Okay. The first thing, if you look at this guitar, is that it's made out of one solid piece of wood, like that. It's quite heavy too. And it doesn't have a sound hole like this guitar has got, because it makes its sound through electricity. On the front are two pickups. They're called pickups because they pick up the sound from the strings. And that sound goes through this label, this lead, and it doesn't have to be green. I just like green leads. And it goes into an amplifier, so it makes the sound. Listen. I better be quiet because the neighbours might still be asleep. Okay? But the acoustic guitar has a hole in the front and a body like a box, which makes the sound when it comes out the front. Okay? So they look different, but they're the same in lots of ways. Let's take a look. First of all, if you count those pegs at the top, you see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pegs for 6 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pegs for 6 strings. So they both have the same amount of strings, and you play them the same way, exactly the same way, only this tends to be quite loud if you turn the amplifier up. Of course, Pirates didn't have these because they didn't have electricity, did they, for amplifiers? Mind you, they could have plugged them in the current. Did you get it? That's a joke. In the current, you know, the water, the current. All right, thank you. I've got that. Let's have a joke that you might get then. What do you call that? Have a good look. That's a rat and that's a pie. It's a pie rat. You get it? A pie rat. Okay, now I promise you that no rats were harmed during the making of this joke. Were you? No, Rod, I was not harmed in the making of that very silly joke. Hey, cheeky thing. Should have baked him in the pie anyhow. Right. Let's have a song and a story at the same time. And I'm using my acoustic guitar. Okay? Right. This is a story of a little boy and his grandfather. Now, the little boy and his granddad lived in a village. Didn't have a mummy and a daddy. His granddad looked after him. Now, everything was all right until one day when it was the little boy's birthday, somebody gave him a guitar. And he went round the village going, "Ram-a-lang-a-doo-dang, oh yeah, yeah, ram-a-lang-a-dang." And people didn't like that. It used to get on their nerves. Ram-a-lang-a-ding-dong, all round the village. Not only that, but Grandad had something that he called a zip stick. It was a magic wand, and he could make things disappear with it. If you were going to have a nice cold drink, he'd come up behind you and go zip, zip, and the glass would disappear and you'd get all wet. If you were going to sit down on a nice comfy chair, he'd come up behind you and go zip, zip, and the chair would disappear and you'd fall on the ground. That's very dangerous, by the way. I wouldn't want you to do that, even if you did have a zip stick. So the people in the village got a little bit fed up. They got fed up with the ram-a-lang-a-doo-dang, oh yeah, yeah, and Grandad with his zip stick. So they said one morning, "We've had enough. Off you go. You can go and find somewhere else to live away from the village." So they were a bit sad, but they found a cave up on the side of the hill where they lived, and they were quite comfortable. Now, one morning, the little boy got up, and he'd been to a party the night before, so he's feeling a little bit tired. And he went to the entrance of the cave and he looked down. And the sun was coming up and he could see this big shadow in front of the sun walking towards the village. He said, I wonder what that is. He said, I'll go and ask Grandad. So he ran back into the cave and he shook old Grandad. He said, wait, hey Grandad, come and have a look at this. There's something coming towards the village. And Grandad put his teeth in and he went out to the cave entrance and he looked and he said, hey son, that is Abiyoyo and he's a giant and he's walking towards the village and he's going to eat them all and it serves them right. But the little boy said, oh no, we must do something to help them. But at that moment, all the villagers were waking up and they were drawing their curtains. Oh! And they saw Abiyoyo and they knew what he was going to do. He was going to eat them. And they were running around screaming and trying to get away. But the little boy said, I know what, Grandad, we can help here. So he ran back into the cave and he got his guitar and he started running toward Mr. Abiyoyo, the giant. Not the people in the village saying, oh, no, come back, don't go, no, he'll eat you, he will eat you, come back. But the little boy was very brave and he ran on and on until he came right in front of the giant. Now the giant was very hungry. He'd always eaten a cow, 2 sheep and 5 pigs, but he was still hungry. And he looked down at the little boy and he thought, I suppose I might as well eat him. But just as he was going to hit him with his hand, the little boy got his guitar and he went, Abiyoyo, 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 yo-yo, yo-yo, yo-yo. And the giant stopped. He was quite pleased. He didn't know anybody knew his name, and he was very, very pleased that somebody was writing a song about him. Just imagine if you went into town and somebody you didn't know came up to you and was singing a song about your name. So he went, and the little boy played it again. He said, join in, Mr. Abiyoyo. Abiyoyo, Abiyoyo. And Abiyoyo did join in. Abiyoyo, Abiyoyo. That's right, said the little boy. Sing it again, Mr. Abiyoyo. Why don't you dance? So Abiyoyo started singing his song and he started dancing. He'd never danced before. He was a bit clumsy, so going, Abiyoyo, Abiyoyo. And he started dancing. Yo-yo, yo-yo, yo-yo. And the little boy played his song faster and faster. Abiyoyo, 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 yo-yo, yo-yo, yo-yo. And the giant danced so fast and he was so clumsy that he fell over flat on the ground. And up ran Grandad with his zip stick and he went zip zip and Abiyoyo disappeared. Well, everybody in the village was delighted. They were so pleased and they ran up to Grandad and the little boy and they were kissing them. Oh, they didn't like that very much. And they said, you must come back and live in the village. We forgive you. We bring you up. Oh, yeah, yeah. And your zip stick and we won't mind. And so they did. And that night, they had a bonfire and they all danced round it and they sang this song. Abiyoyo, 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 yo-yo, yo-yo, yo-yo. I'm not sure what happened to Mr. Abiyoyo. Perhaps he went away to a place where there were giants that he could get on with. Maybe. I hope so. All right. I'll see you next time.